It wasn't gunpowder that built the British Empire. It was a flower that would plunge one of the oldest civilizations into chaos and turn Britain into the most powerful force on Earth. This is not just about trade or war. This is the true story of how Britain used opium to colonize minds, destroy a nation, and rewrite the rules of global power. In the 17th and 18th century Britain, tea wasn't just a drink, it was a national obsession. Rich or poor, noble or commoner, everyone drank tea. By 1800, the British were importing over 26 million pounds of tea annually. But there was a problem. Almost all of it came from China. China, under the Qing dynasty, had a strong, self-sufficient economy. They didn't want British goods. They didn't want wool or clocks or coal. They wanted only one thing in return: silver. So the British treasury started bleeding silver. The trade deficit became a crisis. Then came a solution: dark, profitable, and devastating. In India, a region Britain had colonized through the East India Company, they found the poppy. From its sticky sap came opium. It was already used in small amounts as medicine in China. But the British decided to scale it, not for healing, but for profit. By the 1790s, the British East India Company had set up a full opium cartel in Bengal. Indian peasants were forced to grow poppy under strict contracts. They weren't paid in cash, but in loans and taxes they could never repay. The company didn't sell opium directly to the Chinese. That was illegal. Instead, they sold it to middlemen, called country traders, mostly British and Indian smugglers who funneled it into Chinese ports. By 1820, Britain was shipping over 4,000 chests of opium to China every year. Within 15 years, that number had exploded to 40,000 chests. Each chest contained about 140 pounds of raw opium. Millions became addicted: merchants, scholars, even soldiers. It was state-sponsored addiction. And it wasn't just social damage, it was economic warfare. Silver, once flowing from Britain to China, now reversed. Chinese silver reserves began to vanish, destabilizing their economy. Britain had solved this trade deficit by creating a drug crisis. In 1839, the Qing emperor had had enough. He appointed Lin Zexu, a strict Confucian official, as his drug czar. Lin wrote a bold letter to Queen Victoria, asking, "Would you allow this trade in your own land? Why do you force it upon ours?" He got no reply, so Lin took matters into his own hands. He confiscated and publicly destroyed over 20,000 chests of British opium in Canton, worth over $2 billion in today's money. Britain declared war, but it wasn't just a response, it was a message. No one stops the empire's profits. The first Opium War from 1839 to 1842 was brutal and one-sided. British steam-powered warships crushed the Chinese Navy. Cities were bombarded. Trade ports fell like dominoes. China, technologically behind and diplomatically isolated, surrendered. In 1842, the Qing signed the Treaty of Nanking, a humiliating document that gave Britain control of Hong Kong, opened up 5 major ports to British trade, forced China to pay $21 million in reparations, and made opium trade unstoppable. It was the first of many so-called unequal treaties, legalized economic colonization. The addiction crisis deepened. When China tried again to suppress the drug trade in the 1850s, Britain struck again. The Second Opium War, 1856 to 1860, was even worse. Britain allied with France. They looted and burned the Old Summer Palace in Beijing, a symbol of Chinese heritage. In defeat, China was forced to fully legalize opium. By 1880, over 13.5 million Chinese people were addicted, 1 in every 10. Meanwhile, the British Empire entered its golden age. Funded by opium profits, new railways in India, palaces in London, and the expansion of colonial influence across Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean. The East India Company, originally a spice trading firm, had become the world's first corporate drug cartel, armed with a private army larger than most countries. But the wealth came with a cost. In India, millions of peasants starved, their lands forced into poppy cultivation. In China, generations were lost to addiction. The dynasty weakened, leading to civil wars, foreign invasions, and finally a revolution in 1911 that ended 2,000 years of imperial rule. And all of this Because Britain wanted tea without paying silver. Empires are usually remembered for their achievements, but what they choose to forget is far more important. The British Empire wasn't just built on exploration or industry. It was built on addiction, exploitation, and arrogance. Opium may be gone, but its legacy, colonial trauma, inequality, and broken nations still remains. This wasn't just history, it was a warning.